Heritage Foundation's Mandate for Leadership Project 2025. Good morning/afternoon/evening. Today we are going to delve into the Heritage Foundation's Mandate for Leadership Project 2025, a roadmap for conservative governance in America. This initiative, envisioned by one of the leading right-wing think tanks in the United States, has sparked considerable debate regarding its ideological framework and policy proposals. Among the many issues outlined in this comprehensive document, some proposals touch upon controversial topics such as child marriage and the lowering of the age of consent. In this analysis, we will explore the foundations of the Mandate for Leadership, its key provisions, and examine the proposals related to marriage laws and consent in the broader context of social policy and conservative values. The Heritage Foundation, founded in 1973, is a conservative think tank based in Washington, D.C. Over the years, it has been influential in shaping public policy and advancing conservative ideals in the United States. The foundation focuses on issues such as limited government, free markets, individual freedom, and traditional family values. Its Mandate for Leadership Project 2025 is an ambitious effort to lay out a detailed vision for the direction of the country under conservative leadership, with the goal of shifting American politics further to the right. This project serves as a blueprint for a potential future administration and has been promoted by key figures within the conservative movement. The document touches on a wide array of issues, including economic policy, national security, energy, and social issues. It advocates for sweeping reforms in governance, and its scope and implications are profound. At its core, the Mandate for Leadership is a policy agenda that seeks to reshape American government, with a particular focus on restoring what it terms traditional American values. The project proposes significant shifts in the administration of federal agencies, the judiciary, and public services, with a stated aim of reducing the size and influence of the federal government while promoting conservative values across various domains of American life. The mandate addresses a wide range of social issues, including healthcare, education, and civil rights. A key focus is on family values, the role of religion in public life, and a commitment to what the foundation sees as the preservation of traditional cultural norms. One of the more controversial aspects of the Mandate for Leadership has been the way in which it engages with issues related to marriage laws and the age of consent. Specifically, some policy proposals have touched on the idea of loosening restrictions around child marriage or reducing the age at which individuals can legally consent to marriage or sexual activity. Child marriage, defined as a formal marriage or informal union where one or both parties are under 18, remains a subject of debate in both conservative and progressive circles. Internationally, the issue has garnered attention for its links to gender inequality, human rights abuses, and long-term social and health consequences for young girls. In the United States, the issue of child marriage is not as widely discussed, but in certain states, laws allow minors to marry with parental or judicial consent. According to reports, child marriage remains legal in most states under specific circumstances. While the Heritage Foundation does not explicitly advocate for lowering the minimum age of marriage, some of the conservative policies it promotes could have implications for this issue. A number of its initiatives on marriage laws and family structure seem to suggest a more permissive stance on traditional familial arrangements, which might create a legal environment where child marriage could become more accepted in certain jurisdictions. For example, some conservative voices argue that religious or cultural practices should be respected, even if they may involve early marriage or family formation. If such a perspective were to influence broader policy reforms, there could be an unintended consequence of normalizing child marriage in the U.S. These views could push for fewer legal restrictions on the age of marriage or consent in some states, with arguments framed around parental rights, local control, and religious freedom. In tandem with child marriage, there has been a growing debate over the age of consent, the legal age at which an individual is considered capable of agreeing to sexual activity. The Heritage Foundation's policies, while not directly calling for a reduction in the age of consent, align with the conservative values that sometimes support lower thresholds for sexual consent based on traditional views of adulthood, marriage, and family life. Certain members within the conservative movement argue that the age of consent should be reconsidered based on cultural and social norms, with some advocating for lower age limits under specific circumstances. These views often invoke the idea of maturity being more important than an arbitrary age. Proponents of lowering the age of consent often claim that it would allow for greater personal responsibility and individual rights, especially in cases where an individual is engaged in a committed relationship or marriage. However, such proposals are controversial, as they can be seen as an infringement on the rights and well-being of minors, who are generally viewed as being too young to make informed decisions about sexual activity. The idea of lowering the age of consent also intersects with other policy areas, such as parental rights, religious freedoms, and state versus federal jurisdiction. Advocates for lower consent ages argue that the federal government should not impose a one-size-fits-all policy, as some states may wish to retain higher or lower thresholds based on their specific values and circumstances. This position often appeals to those who believe that local communities should have more autonomy in deciding what is best for their children, even if those decisions may contradict national trends or recommendations from child welfare organizations. Proposals related to child marriage and the lowering of the age of consent bring up complex ethical and legal questions. On the one hand, these issues are framed within the context of personal freedom, parental rights, and religious liberty. On the other hand, they raise significant concerns about the protection of minors and the potential for exploitation, especially among vulnerable populations. Reducing legal protections for minors in areas such as marriage and consent could have far-reaching consequences. Child marriage has been shown to increase the risk of domestic violence, economic instability, and poor health outcomes, particularly for girls. Lowering the age of consent could also lead to higher rates of sexual exploitation, abuse, and psychological harm, as minors may not be fully capable of making informed decisions about their own bodies or relationships. Moreover, legal systems are typically designed to protect minors from making life-altering decisions that they are not equipped to fully understand. Altering these laws could open the door for greater parental or societal control over young people's lives, potentially overriding individual autonomy and agency. The Heritage Foundation's Mandate for Leadership Project 2025 outlines a broad agenda for a future conservative administration, encompassing everything from tax reform to national defense. However, its proposals concerning child marriage and the lowering of the age of consent remain among the more controversial elements, raising important questions about the balance between individual rights, parental authority, and the protection of minors. As the nation debates the direction of its future, these discussions around family law and age of consent will likely play a significant role in the broader conversation about what it means to protect the rights of vulnerable individuals while also upholding cultural and religious norms. The outcome of these debates will ultimately shape how America addresses the issue of children's rights in marriage and sexual relationships for generations to come.